The snowstorm came faster than expected. The weather warning had been announced since noon, but in the small town where I live, people are used to underestimating forecasts. I still went to work because the hardware store where I work rarely closes, and the manager always says, the storm won't necessarily get bad. As the sun went down, the snow began to fall thick, and the wind turned harsh. The roads became slippery, visibility narrowed, and my phone started losing signal. Around 8 o'clock at night, my car died on an incline near the old residential area. I tried starting the engine several times, but the battery didn't respond. No other vehicles passed by. I waited almost 20 minutes inside the car, hoping help would come, until the heater stopped working. With the temperature continuing to drop, I decided to walk, to look for the nearest house. The lights looked faint behind the curtain of snow, and I headed toward the only house that still appeared bright. I knocked on the front door, then the side door, with no answer. My footprints were quickly covered by snow. At the back of the house, a small porch light was on. I knocked again, harder. After a moment, the door opened halfway. A middle-aged man stood behind it, wearing a thick jacket and work gloves. I explained that my car had broken down and the signal was gone. He didn't say much, just nodded and motioned for me to come inside, to warm up. Inside, the house was warm, but dark. The lights were only on in the kitchen. I sat on a chair, near the table, taking off my wet shoes. The man made instant coffee and placed it in front of me, without asking. He said, storms like this often cut the power in the upper hill area, and suggested I wait until morning. I agreed. Going back out into the snow was not an option. We barely talked. He stayed standing in the kitchen, checking his phone repeatedly, as if waiting for something. Several times, a sound came from outside, maybe a snapping branch or a garage door caught by the wind. Each time the sound appeared, he stood up, pulled the curtain aside, then closed it again. I offered to help clear the snow in front of the house as a thank you, but he refused and said it wasn't necessary. When the coffee was gone, he pointed to the sofa in the living room and said I could sleep there. He didn't go to a bedroom himself. I lay down, with my jacket still on, trying to close my eyes. The wind roared without stopping. A few minutes passed, and I realized he was still standing in the kitchen, his shadow unmoving. I opened my eyes briefly and saw him staring toward the back door, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. I woke up to a loud sound from outside, like metal hitting the ground. The man was no longer in the kitchen. The light was still on. I stood up and looked toward the back door. There were fresh shoe prints on the wet floor leading outside. I put my shoes on and opened the door slightly. Cold wind rushed in immediately. In the yard, the snow was up to my calves, and near the fence, there were tire tracks from a vehicle that had just left. I closed the door and went back to the living room. My phone vibrated. The signal was back. There was a message from the local police, sent as a mass alert, warning residents to stay inside their homes because there were reports of theft and attempted break-ins in the residential area during the storm. A few minutes later, a faint siren echoed in the distance. When morning came, the storm began to ease. I stepped outside and saw the garage door open, with several items scattered across the snow. Not long after, a patrol car stopped in front of the house. An officer stepped out and asked if I had seen the homeowner. I explained what had happened the night before. The officers exchanged glances, then said the house was supposed to be empty. The owner had been detained since early morning for attempting to break into several other houses. While the storm was ongoing, I walked back to my car after the tow truck arrived. When the engine started and the heater began working again, I realized one simple thing. If my car had not broken down on that incline, I would never have entered the house that stayed awake throughout the storm, and I might never have known how thin the line is between seeking shelter and becoming part of something else. The blizzard started coming down. Since the afternoon, the kind of snowstorm that doesn't shut everything down immediately, but is enough to make people hesitate to leave their homes. I work as a tow truck operator in the mountainous region of northern Montana along an interstate road that is often partially closed during winter. That night, the emergency radio announced that a full closure would be enforced at 2 in the morning. That meant there was still a window of time for vehicles that were already stuck before they completely locked down the road. Around 11 at night, a call came in. An SUV was reported, stopped on the shoulder of the road, 5 miles before the closure point. The driver claimed the engine died after hitting a hard pile of snow. There were no other vehicles around. The dispatch operator warned that visibility had dropped below 30 meters, but the route was still listed as limited safe. I took the job because the distance was close and I knew the area. As I drove, the wind grew stronger. The snow didn't fall straight down. It came sideways, slamming into the windshield like wet sand. The GPS kept losing signal. The cellular towers blocked by the storm. I relied on road markings and reflectors, which would disappear from time to time, buried under snow. There were no city lights, only darkness and moving white. I found the SUV exactly at the reported location. The vehicle was completely dead, its hazard lights glowing weakly. Inside, there was one man, around his late 30s, sitting in the driver's seat, wearing a thin coat. He looked relieved. When he saw the lights of my tow truck, I told him to stay inside the vehicle. While I prepared the hook, the wind was far too strong to talk outside for long. When I returned to the tow truck cab to warm my hands, the radio crackled. Dispatch asked for a position check. I responded. Then they gave additional information. There was a report of another vehicle stopped about 1 mile behind me, but the signal had cut out. There had been no follow-up contact. I nodded to myself. In a storm like this, a lot of reports never come through complete. After the SUV was lifted and secured, the man climbed into the tow truck cab. He introduced himself briefly, his voice flat, almost lost beneath the roar of the wind. We started moving back toward the nearest town to a repair shop that stayed open. Through the night, under normal conditions, the drive would take about 20 minutes. The first few minutes passed without trouble, but on a long curve that was usually empty. My headlights caught something in the middle of the road. I slowed down gently. There stood a woman with her back to us, wearing a snow jacket without a hood. Her hair was wet with snow, stuck to her neck. She stood completely still, not waving, not moving. I lowered the window slightly and shouted to ask if she was okay. The wind swallowed my voice. The man beside me turned and said, "It might be the driver from the second report. By procedure, I wasn't allowed to take an additional passenger without dispatch approval, but the weather conditions made me hesitate to leave her standing in the middle of the road. I opened the door and asked her to get in. The woman walked closer, without hesitation, her steps steady, even with snow, up to her calves. When she climbed inside, I smelled a sharp cold scent, like clothes that had been outside for far too long. She didn't answer when I asked her name. She just sat in the back seat, staring forward. A few minutes later, the radio crackled again. Dispatch confirmed that the second vehicle report had been canceled. They received a signal from Highway Patrol. The vehicle had been found empty, its door open, engine dead, no signs of anyone walking away. The snow covering everything. Too quickly, I stared through the windshield, then glanced at the rearview mirror. The woman was still sitting there, her face half hidden in shadow. The man in the passenger seat fell silent as well. No one said anything. I accelerated slightly, wanting to get out of that open stretch as fast as possible. About 5 minutes later, the tow truck's engine temperature indicator lit up. The wind grew even stronger, making the truck sway lightly. I pulled over carefully, hoping it was just a faulty sensor. When I shut off the engine, the silence felt strange, as if the storm itself had stepped away for a few seconds. I turned around to tell the passengers to stay inside. The back seat was empty. No door was open. There were no footprints outside. The snow around the tow truck was still smooth, untouched, except for our own tire tracks. The man beside me started talking fast, saying the woman might have gotten out without us noticing. But the tow truck door was heavy. I would have heard it for sure. I turned on the radio, asked dispatch to send assistance, and reported the strange incident. They replied in a serious tone, telling me to stay inside the vehicle and not to look for anyone outside. As I waited, the SUV's lights behind us suddenly went out. Not like the power died, but like they were pulled out. I stepped down briefly to check the hook. The wind stabbed at my face immediately. On the side of the SUV, I saw the rear door slightly open from the inside, leaving a narrow gap. Inside the SUV's cabin, there was fog on the window, like someone had just been breathing. In there, the patrol sirens finally sounded from a distance. I climbed back into the tow truck and locked the door. As the blue and red lights drew closer, I looked into the mirror one last time. In the distance, in the middle of the white blizzard, there was a figure standing there, facing us. Still, not waving. The storm swallowed it before I could be sure of anything. After that night, I no longer take calls on that stretch of road. When a blizzard comes, the highway still stays open every winter, but for me, there is a part of the storm that never truly goes away.